that season, getting to the Challenge Cup final and losing the Challenge Cup final spurred us on to drive towards a Super League Grand Final, and we were able to do that year.
I'd have thought Bradford were favourites going into the finals, into the final at Old Trafford. We'd had a good season that year, really good season.
I think there's a lot of trends recently within professional sports of nights before big games and stuff like that, where they're having nights away in hotels and stuff. We never really did that. The only thing I can remember us doing was, I'm not sure if this was in 01 or 03, that we used to meet at the Cedar Court at the top of the 606 motorway there, and the families would be there and all the buses would be there and all the corporate side of things, and we'd just meet up there, let the families go do what they were doing. The kids would run riot for half an hour, and there'd be fights going on all over the place with kids, and the players would just get on the bus and leave the wives to it.
I booked the bus, and the police told us a time to book the bus for, and to meet us with the police escort at Birch Services, which we did, and there was no traffic. So we arrived at Old Trafford probably 2 hours before kick-off, which is far too early, really. You plan to be there for an hour and a half.
You used to play a game with Robbie Paul on the bus, because if you'd start humming a song, you'd know then within 30 seconds he'd be singing it. So Robbie would be there, you'd be singing a song or humming a song, and next thing you know, Robbie's bouncing and he's beating, he's singing the song and things like that. So
there rings a little bit of a bell, because I think guys used to hum around me just to get me singing. I've got a terrible voice. I can't sing. But I come from a musical culture who do a lot of singing, and I was in what they call a kapa haka group, which is a Māori singing group, and so music was a big part of my upbringing, and has always been a way that I used to relax. So anyone hum a tune around me that I knew, just like Tourette's, would just fly out. And then singing badly as well, so I probably used to wind them up. But then they thought, well, we can't stop, so we might as well join it. And so they'd sit around me and hum different tunes and see what I'd come out. It was a game that they played, and they used to laugh with each other because I would just start singing it.
So you'd have a police bike in front, police bike behind. So you'd be sat at the front and literally not feeling like you're royalty, but the most enjoying part of sitting at the front is feeling, yes, you do feel special, but the main bit of the police officers. So you literally drive in, one corner's off and the other takes over. But literally, it's like the hand of Darth Vader. They literally, you might as well have a mask on going, you move. And sometimes you'd see them getting really irate, and people would just literally stop and go in the cars, just flap.
Well, the journey to Old Trafford was very different to the journey to Twickenham from our hotel, I think about 4 months earlier. Brian Noble hadn't banned playing cards, hadn't banned the boys being jovial and sociable, and it wasn't about playing the game right there and that point. It was, guys, you've got this. That was, Nobby had changed his approach to it. Boys, you've got this. You're going to go out there and you're going to absolutely kill it. You do what you need to do to get out there. There was no dress code either. So everyone, I think, had to wear their polo shirt, but it wasn't suits. It was wear what you want, come comfortable to the game and be there. So, yeah, guys like Tavita Vaikona and that turning up in shorts and flip-flops. Nathan McAvoy is always the prettiest guy in the team. He's turning up in smart dress wear. You got Scott Naylor turns up in jeans and his polo shirt.
I can remember a little bit of experience we'd had going from '99 and Challenge Cups in 2000s and whatever, that the atmosphere within the camp, and when we got there was real relaxed. It was, I think there was like a bit of a stage in front in the middle of the field when we got to Old Trafford. We was there real early, and I think some of the boys were playing cards on that little stage in the middle of the field.
Wigan came to the game, obviously. They got there around the hour and a half before Mark, and they were all dressed in suits with the red roses in, and they looked absolutely $1 million. But I looked at them and I thought they looked tense. They looked too focused, if that's possible.
You come out to the fireworks and you're in the tunnel, and often the opposite members of the team. Certainly with Great Britain and being involved with that, you know them, but it's that seriousness. And as you come out, not only is the atmosphere, the crowd of exploding, you literally have exploding because the fireworks.
Now, you just got to imagine what 60,000 people all at the same time screaming at you feels like. You can physically feel it. It's like texture. You swim through it. It is a rock star moment when you understand at that point why singers get on stage in front of people and perform.
It's a cacophony of noise when the players come out, and it's not quite like Wembley, but it's similar, or like the old Wembley. It's similar in that you can't really see that when you're in the tunnel, because the tunnel's dark, and people can't see the players until they virtually emerge from the depth of the tunnel.
You look at, everybody talks about the Bradford team, but look at the Wigan team that we played, and forget the scoreline and things like that, but Chris Rodlinski, Brett Dallas, Steve Renouf, Gary Connolly.
They had Adrian Lamb, they had Steve Renouf. The list just goes on. It's as long as your arm. But I'll be honest, it had nothing to do about them. It was all to do about that squad of Bradford Bulls players. You could have put the Australian international team in front of us. And I've said this before, and I remember Jamie Peacock giving me a load of grief about it, saying, you say we could beat the Aussie international team. Why? Because I've played against the Aussies when they've been rubbish. You know, a star-studded Aussies team, and they've been rubbish. But when that Bulls team got it right, it was stronger than any New Zealand team I ever played on.
One thing that's always stuck in my mind was, in 2001, the British Open Golf Championship was at Royal Lytham St Anne's. And a friend of the Bulls, Alan Shutt, who runs the station in at Ribblehead, Alan arranged for the golf playing members of the team and some of the staff to have a round of golf at Lytham just after the 2001. And I played in the group that was behind Henry Paul. And so we had a bit of banter all the way around about what was going on. And I remember that Henry kicked a goal from just about halfway line, right at the beginning of the game, a two-pointer. And as we came off at half-time, he was walking diagonally across the pitch and I was walking down the touchline side. And when we met together, he said to me, "What do you think of that, Duff? Just like a 7-iron onto the green."
Very early on in the game, they moved the ball to Steve Renouf. And very early on in the game, Scott Naylor got into Steve Renouf's ear and said, "You're mine tonight." They moved the ball again to Steve Renouf, and Scott was all over him because I was defending around him. "You're mine tonight." And I think Steve Renouf just went, "Oh, God. It's going to be one of those games." And he was all over him like white on rice. And, you know, it was one of those games where everything just clicked. It just felt right. From the kickoff, we got a penalty. I think we got a penalty on halfway. And I said, "Hen, put 2 points on the board." No problem. Henry had that look in his eye. Nailed it. They kicked off. I think they kicked it dead. Penalty, again, another penalty on halfway. Henry, kick another penalty. Sweet. Boom, nailed it. Defensive line was making errors. We're forcing them into pushing passes. Next minute, try. And just everything was coming together, and there was nothing that they could do because we were just on song.
I remember Faz, and I knew him quite well from Great Britain. I'd been involved with Great Britain from '99, so on tours with Faz, and you know, he was a player you looked up to. But I can remember him going absolutely mad in the final, and he's the reason why Leon Price grabbed his nuts in the final. He went mad. Now, players back then, and like people like Scott Naylor, used to have a lot of people who sledged, who did things like that for a reason. Put someone off the game, whether it's a great player or it's a player who loses his head, you put them off the game. However that is, it's part of the sport. But Leon grabbed his nuts. It certainly put Faz off the game.
I thought we'd won it at half-time. Of the 6 grand finals I went to, it was the only one I felt relaxed at half-time, that we'd won it. I didn't think Wigan could come back no matter what they did. I didn't think they had the capability of coming back. We'd completely obliterated him in that first half.
I'd be lying if I turned around and said that we didn't think at some point that at half time that we thought, we've got to be fairly happy with ourselves at this point.
I think it was when I scored. No, but I mean, well, you got it there. I think that was something like the 70th minute, 68th minute, and you're 37, points up. You've obviously won.
It was by no means a classic of a game, but it was a classic for me personally. That is the greatest 40 minutes I've ever played in, the perfect 40 minutes I've ever played in, and I never experienced it. In times in games, you get rhythms in games for about 10, 15 minutes where you've got momentum. Everything's going your way. I've never experienced 40 minutes of it. It was almost perfect. And for me to experience that with the last time I played a professional rugby league game with my older brother Henry, the guy who we grew up from knee high to a grasshopper 10,000 hours practice before we played professional rugby in the backyard with one another to finish off that game with that guy. Gold.